So today we are going to talk about the Pythagorean Theorem. So we're going to take a few notes to go along with this video. I know this is the first time you've been doing this, so I just want you to follow along with my recording on your note sheet that has already been given to you. If you need to pause, go ahead and do so. If you need to go back, rewatch something, you have that option. I'm not going anywhere. Okay, so today we are talking about the Pythagorean Theorem. So there's just a few things that I want to talk about before we get started. First, very quickly, I want to go over our inverse operations. So we know that the inverse of addition is subtraction and vice versa. Inverse of subtraction is addition. The inverse of multiplication is division. The inverse of division is multiplication. And then one more that we really want to focus on today. The inverse of a squared number is the square root of that number, and vice versa. If you have the square root, the square is the inverse of that. So right here is going to be a big inverse operation that we want to focus on when we go through the Pythagorean theorem today. The second important thing is the idea of a right triangle. So first and foremost in your right triangle, and this is already marked for you, but you have to have a right angle in your right triangle. Okay, so let's talk about that. That is the right angle, and it measures 90 degrees. Okay, so this is a triangle you should already be familiar with. The two sides of the triangle that make up the 90-degree angle, they are called the legs. So you have two legs in your right triangle, and then the side directly across from the right angle is called the hypotenuse. Okay, kind of a funny word, but that is the word that is used for this side, the third side of the triangle. It's the one that they say is opposite the right angle. They say opposite because it's not touching either of the sides that create the right angle. Keep in mind this does not mean opposite as in change the sign from positive to negative and vice versa. So those are the two key things that we want to talk about. Squared number, the inverse operation is the square root, and you need to know the parts of your right triangle. So right now on your note sheet, if you need to pause to fill anything in, please do so and then continue watching. Alright, I'm back. So let's move on to the actual Pythagorean theorem. So again, we have our right triangle. The Pythagorean theorem only works for a right triangle. And it is used to find a missing side. So again, we have our leg, and then the hypotenuse we abbreviate as HYP is right across opposite from our right angle. So the Pythagorean theorem uses three variables, A, B, and C. The A variable and the B variable are assigned to the legs. It doesn't matter which one, you'll see why in a minute. The C variable is assigned to the hypotenuse. And the Pythagorean theorem is as follows. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So take just a second, think to yourself, why doesn't it matter A and B? This could be A, this could be B. It doesn't matter because addition is commutative. So when you add them together, you can add them in any order and get the same answer. So the Pythagorean theorem, the way it works is that you will be given two out of these three variables. You will substitute them into the theorem and solve for the remaining variable. So we're going to go through two examples. Again, if there's any time you need to pause, rewatch, try it on your own, anything like that, please do so. This video is for you. So we're going to finish up those two examples on the front side of your note sheet before you practice on your own. So let's go ahead and get to example 1. The first step in any Pythagorean theorem problem should be to copy down the Pythagorean theorem. So I know that a squared plus b squared is going to equal c squared. A and b belong to the legs. So I'm going to pick the two legs, remember they're the ones that touch the right angle, and I'm going to call this one a, this one b. My hypotenuse is always c. Next, I'm going to substitute these values in for the variables they represent. Remember, when you substitute, you must use parentheses. So I have 5 squared plus 6 squared equals w squared. Okay? Now I need to go through and follow the steps to solving. Right now, I am at the need to simplify step, kind of combine like terms once I get there. Since I'm going with the order of operations, when I combine like terms, I have to do the exponents first. So I have 25 plus 36 equals w squared. Let's add those two together. Get 61 equals w squared. Okay? But they didn't tell me that the hypotenuse was w squared, they said it was w. So that means I need to use the inverse operation of a squared number. Remember, we said earlier that is a square root. So what I'm going to do is take the square root of w squared. That gives me w. But remember, math is fair, so I have to take the square root on the other side. 61 is not a perfect square, so I don't know off the top of my head. No need to get a calculator. We'll just leave the answer like this. Okay? So this is an example when you're given two legs, A and B, and you have to find the hypotenuse. Now let's do example 2 on your notes. This time, I have to find one of the legs. One of the legs is missing. So again, I'm going to copy down my Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to assign each side a variable and substitute using parentheses. Okay, let's go through and simplify. X squared plus 64 equals 100. Okay, this one looks a little different, but I still know how to solve. I need to remove my constant by using inverse operations in order to isolate the variable. So I'm going to subtract 64 from both sides. So now I have x squared equals 36. Once again, I wasn't asked for x squared, I just want x. So to get x alone, I have to take the square root. But I have to be fair on both sides. So the square root of x squared is x. This time, the number is a perfect square. I do know the square root of 36. It is 6. Remember, you can always check your work. Take your time. Use the steps that we've learned. If you have trouble as you start going through the examples, come back to the video and rewatch. Use your notes. Follow along. Good luck. If you have any questions, we will go over this again when I get back.